Sorting is the process of rearranging items so that they are in order. Personnel records may be sorted alphabetically or by social insurance number. Hockey players may be ordered by lifetime goals scored. This film presents and compares 9 different sorting techniques, or algorithms: 3 insertion sorts, 3 exchange sorts, and 3 selection sorts. Our first 3 techniques are called insertion sorts. Each one works by inserting new items into data that is already in order. The simplest insertion sort is called linear insertion. The linear insertion sort compares the first 2 items to see which is smaller and discovers that they are already in order. The third item is larger than the second and in its correct position relative to the other 2. The fourth item is not. Thus we find the correct position and insert it into place. With each new item, we look for the correct position, move the intervening items out of the way, and insert it. Here an item is already in the correct position. If there are n items, we make n-1 passes over the data, each with order n comparisons and movements. Thus linear insertion is an n-squared sort. Now let's try this again with more data. In deciding where to insert the item, we examine each consecutive location, looking for the correct position with a linear search. As you can see, this is very time-consuming. We can do better by using a binary search, using the technique known as binary insertion. Binary insertion first divides the search interval into 2 and discards half of it. Again, we divide the interval in 2 to further narrow the search. We divide again with a third probe, discover the correct position with the fourth probe, and insert the item. We begin again, discarding half of the search interval, and half of the remainder, and again half, to find the position in the fourth probe. Thus the number of comparisons is usually reduced, although not always, since here linear insertion would have been faster. The binary search reduces the comparisons to order n log n, but we still need order n squared data movements. To reduce the number of movements, we use a method invented by Shell. The shell sort, instead of considering all items at once, sorts small groups of items. We start with groups spaced widely apart, in this case, every 5th item. We do a linear insertion on the first group, and on the second, and on each subsequent group. Notice that each movement takes an item 5 positions towards its ultimate destination instead of only 1 position. Next, we operate on groups spaced more closely together, in this case, every third item. Again, we perform linear insertions on these groups. The final pass is also a linear insertion sort. It goes quickly because the data is already almost sorted. But it is not obvious that the shell sort is faster than the other two methods, and if it is faster, how much faster? So let us run some experiments and see. Consider the three techniques on n randomly selected data items, where n ranges from 10 to 500. First, consider the number of times we compare two items to decide which is smaller. The number of comparisons for linear insertion grows as n squared. For binary insertion, as n log n. For the shell sort, approximately the same as n log n. How about the number of times items are moved to get them into their correct positions? In linear insertion, the number of movements grows as n squared. Binary insertion makes the identical movements. The shell sort, however, yields a significant improvement. Total computation time is a function of both comparisons and movements. We have coded the algorithms as similarly as possible in the C language on a PDP 1145 computer. Linear insertion is clearly order n squared. Binary insertion yields a slight improvement. The shell sort yields a significant improvement. Another way of visualizing this is to imagine three identical machines using these three techniques to sort identical sequences of 250 items. See if you can identify which machine is using which technique. Keep your eye on the bottom machine at the beginning. Our next three techniques are called exchange sorts. Each one works by exchanging pairs of items until all items are in order. The simplest exchange sort is called the bubble sort, a method whose fame exceeds its virtues. We begin by scanning up the data, exchanging adjacent pairs of items where necessary to move the smallest item to the top. We scan the remaining items, performing more exchanges. Now the second smallest item is in position. Each successive pass guarantees that one more element is in its correct position. There are n-1 passes with order n comparisons and movements in each pass. Thus, the bubble sort is an n